Day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Dr. Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go.
You're watching Dr. Politics.
Good Friday, everyone. Another week is done. I think we're going back to spring. We went from winter to spring to summer for a day, and now that we're back in spring. Tomorrow might be, I don't know. I think it's still spring. Some people might say fall-like weather. And next week we're in the summer, 80s, and we might have a 90-degree day next week. How's that for the Mid-Atlantic climate, everyone?
Yeah, it's a little crazy, but I mean, it's been a little chilly in the morning, right? It's been right in the 40s early in the morning.
Yeah, we had frost last week. I think one morning.
I had kind of a very light frost on my car or something like that, but yeah, it was this weather has been just a little bit crazy, but that's what climate change brings us, right?
Yep.
Happy
Friday to you, Craig, and also another wishing you a happy Passover. And we've got, so we got our dedicated listeners, and viewers, Yeah. Hey, Susan, you got to tell us, can you hear us when we're in the green room and talking and you're in the YouTube? Can you hear us? Because we were talking about food and you just posted this while we were
Either that or she can read our lips.
Read my lips.
In theory, she shouldn't even be seeing our faces at all. Huh. So that's just dumb luck.
That's amazing, actually. Yeah, that comment fit right into our
Wendy's and their Frosties and their chili and their French fries and their burgers and so on.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so
and it all started because we're talking about Wendy's chili.
Yeah, but I do want to try that out. Maybe one day this week, Don, I'll meet up with you. Is there a Wendy's out in Rockville somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing one on Rockville Pike.
There's a Wendy's around the corner from me. Back in my old area, there was a Wendy's on that
shopping center,
Connecticut, where the Kmart was, and I don't know what it is. It's now a Home and Decor or whatever it is. Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of Wendy's around.
Arby's are gone, I think.
Yeah, Arby's is totally gone. But I think when I call up the app, there's another one in Montgomery Village too.
What, Wendy's or Arby's?
Wendy's.
In Virginia, we have Arby's. We have a few Arby's. I had lunch today at an Arby's, so there are a few here.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Arby's with the great big old sign they used to have? Remember that great
cowboy hat? Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
10-gallon hat.
I think in Richmond they still have that old one, and they still
have that in Laurel too. There's one in Laurel right on Route 1 near the car dealerships.
Okay, yeah.
And okay, maybe we should try that First Street in Rockville Pike location. Oh yeah, there is one. That's over by the old Hogan the Ehrlich headquarters. It's over where the Amco is.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Right. There's one over there. Right. Yeah. The one in Montgomery Village is in the same shopping center where the Trader Joe's used to be before they moved to Darnestown.
Oh, I thought that was. Oh, yeah, there is one by Patel Brothers. Yes, there is one there.
Yep. Yeah. So they're not as ubiquitous as McDonald's, but they are there.
But Don, did you know there is another H Mart opened up by the Patel Brothers, like a block or two away from there?
Maybe another H Mart. I mean, there's been an H Mart that's been.
Okay, maybe I just saw it for the first.
Maybe you did, because that used to be a Safeway, but it's been an H Mart for years, and we've been shopping there for years.
Okay. All they need is now one. They just need to put a Loki in.
H Mart up in Frederick, which is a lot newer. It's really nice, especially for people who like to go and eat in those kind of places.
Yeah. You know, I remember back when the first, I guess, Korean, Asian type superstore was probably Maxim's on Rockville Pike.
Yeah, which they've demolished that building now.
That's gone?
Oh, it's been gone. Yeah, and it's completely.
I never noticed it being demolished.
And I think Craig could probably tell us if that. I can't remember what they were doing. I think they have built something on that site. Maybe Craig can recall. I don't drive down there that often, but I know they demolished the building, and I thought they were building something now in its place.
Do you remember GE used to have a building down there, which is now, I think, ADP has that building, but that used to be the GE building.
Yeah.
They had a big blue GE logo there.
Yeah.
But
the older we get, the more times have changed.
The more buildings are gone.
Yeah, we can throw in Shakey's Pizza Parlor, Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor.
Yeah. I think there was a Farrell's in Bethesda, and I think there was another one in Wheaton Plaza. The Farrell's.
Another one. Obviously, I lived near there, so that was the Farrell's I'd go to all the time.
Yeah, and there was a Farrell's.
We had one in Tyson's Corner. We had a Farrell's.
And do you remember Captain Andy's?
I don't think so.
Rivertown. It's now the bowling alley in Wheaton Plaza, but that used to be like a kids arcade type thing.
Yeah.
And here's something for you. Back when I was in high school, there used to be a club for underage kids to go to, a safe space called the Cuckoo's Nest in Olney.
Well, remember Wheaton, at the Wheaton Mall, that's where the abduction, remember the Lyons sisters?
1976.
Yeah. My father knew John Lyons and worked with him, the father.
That's actually a famous family down there, the Lyons.
Okay.
That lived, there's a Dr. Lyons who had a dentist shop. I don't know if this is the same guy. And he had a bunch of kids that went to school down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lyons is a prominent name down there. It's kind of like the Ewings of Dallas, you know. They're not that prominent.
Well, the thing about that case is that was such a shocker for we were a little more of an innocent time.
Yeah.
And then when those kids got abducted, so that became, that was a big case.
Yeah. And I think that's I'm going to use that as a good segue about innocent times.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's not.
No, I like that. I like you brought that up because that's a perfect segue too. You guys remember Kent State?
Yep.
They had riots there. Berkeley had some riots there.
That's right, yeah.
President Reagan restored order to Berkeley.
Yeah.
President Nixon restored order to Kent State.
Yeah.
Why isn't Joe Biden taking a page out of the Nixon playbook and just sending in the National Guard to Columbia? You know, I'm sorry. When you're in leadership, you got to make the tough calls, and this is one of those tough calls. You know, it's this, right? I forget the name. I think what was the movie? There was some movie where these terrorists were going to fly a plane into Dulles Airport and blow it up with a bunch of chemicals, and it's to cause mass panic and so on, you know. And what happened was they didn't, because they actually attached a jet to it that people climbed into the cargo and basically liberated. But in that movie, the president was given the orders to shoot down the plane. I mean, you take out a 747 with a few people in it, or you take out millions of people with letting it land. And those are the kind of tough decisions leaderships have to make. evidently Joe Biden is not able to make the tough calls on any of this. He had
someone else will tell him. Yeah, I agree.
And I'll tell you this: remember when Donald Trump was asked about Charlottesville, and he said there are good people on both sides. I think Joe Biden said pretty much the same thing about the Hamas terrorist sympathizers at Columbia.
Yeah, I agree.
He did. He did. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the way. That's one of the things that he said about that. I mean,
Poor Rachel Madcow. Why aren't you harping about this all day long?
Yeah.
How dare he?
Yeah, and remember in the Trump's case, both sides of the issue of taking down historic statues, because that was the protest. And he said they're good people on both sides. It had nothing to do with being a neo-Nazi, had nothing to do with being a Klansman, had nothing to do with any of that.
Well, we know this for a fact that the Nazis are very comfortable within the Democrat Party.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tlaib.
Well, I don't understand the mentality, and maybe this is because I'm not in education and they won't put me there, but I don't know why the coddling. I mean, if you're there to go to school, you're there to go to school. You don't really care about their political opinions. And so I just don't know why they can't just tell them, you're going to behave, you're going to shut up, and you're going to listen.
Yeah, I mean, USC
had so many words, but
USC had to cancel graduation. And this was, I think, maybe the first or second graduation after the pandemic. It's like, how dare you people rob people of, these things,
Yeah, and I think they're going to become commencements are probably going to become so woke. All these speakers.
They already have. They
may just have to get rid of at some point. They may just have to get rid of commencement. You pick it.
Well, they got rid of in Montgomery County. In Montgomery County, they got rid of the valedictorian and salutatorian, and they got rid of class ranks. So
yeah.
Everyone feels good because nobody knows what the rank is. But
well, if that's the case, why even go to commencement? Just we'll send you your degree.
Yeah,
it's just that.
I had a friend of mine in high school, David Talcott. He did not go to graduation. He didn't pick up his high school diploma until I think he was at Maryland doing a PhD or a master's program, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I finally got around to picking up my high school diploma." It's almost 10 years later.
For me, what I sat through the graduation at McLean High School, and I sat there with this whole worry the entire ceremony. I didn't think they'd call my name because, you see, I didn't pay this locker fee, $3. And then it dawned on me, I don't think they can give me my diploma. I didn't pay this. Well, what they did was I got called up. I shook the principal's hand. And in the diploma thing, it had a note saying I owed $3 for the locker fee. But I was scared the entire time. I'm thinking, well, my parents are here, family's here, and I don't think they're gonna call my name. But
and that, I mean, that's probably before really you had the technology of today where they can really hound you for that stuff. I mean, it's like the DMV. If you've got an outstanding ticket or whatever, you're not getting a renewal registration notice. So, you can't get your car registration renewed. So, you can only imagine what it was like. I mean, everything that was being done kind of by hand and everything like this. And they're hoping that you would pay the fee, but they weren't going to withhold it. But I think they're a lot tougher on some of those things. But we do see. I mean, we see all those kids who rack up all kinds of bills on school lunches, and then some philanthropist type comes in and then pays off the bill and to get it reset to zero again, and all of this.
And then they start all over again.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, they're whatever behavior that led them to rack up the bills, somebody paying them off is not going to teach them to not rack up the bills again.
Yeah,
it's like student loan forgiveness.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys watch Caleb Hammer. He's a financial YouTuber, right? There was I was just watching. It happened just today. He had a guy that filed for bankruptcy. He was 65 years old. He filed for bankruptcy about 10 years ago. And he got his slate wiped clean. You got bankruptcy on the record, but he got his and you think you'd learn and not go back into debt. He was back in the hole all over again about 8-10 years later. He was back in How do you do that?
Was he not making much money? I mean, what was the issue?
The guy's got had a master's degree in something.
Yeah, I mean, I think those kind of people, I mean, they just never learn good principles of financial management, and so even getting the clock reset doesn't do anything, but just gives them an opportunity, to just repeat the bad habits, and then they'll have to go through that process again, which is a shame. But
I think, Don, you really should check out Caleb Hammer. He is hilariously funny, especially when he gets when he flies off and really people who don't have two nickels that are together, like spending money going to McDonald's and Starbucks, have $10 coffees, right? He just goes off on it's just hilarious. It's very entertaining. And
is it really $10 for a cup of coffee? I don't drink coffee. I don't go to Starbucks.
It's $6 at Starbucks. You can get it up to $10 if you do things. It's about $6.
Okay. Yeah. There was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal the other day about Chipotle, about how they've been able to maintain their customer base despite the fact that they've had to continually ratchet up prices. And the journal is saying over the last 4 years, prices at restaurants, have gone up about 29% on the average. And I think any of us who have gone to any place, whether or not it's for pizza, a sit down, you go to fast food, we've all seen the increase, in all those prices. Chipotle, strangely enough, what's happened is that they apparently have built like a cult following for people who want to get
bad food
protein, with the chicken and stuff like that. They're health nuts, and they think that getting a chicken bowl, and stuff like that from Chipotle, and they're so devoted to doing that, is that they'll pay almost any price to do that. So Chipotle's been able to maintain their customer base despite increasing their prices. It's ridiculous to see how much prices have gone up. We're now hearing less from the Biden administration too, right, about Bidenomics and inflation, because the last couple of inflation reports have not been very good for them. And instead of decelerating, they've actually started to pick back up again a little bit. And then the GDP number was not good. So you can't, how do you say, our economy is going great, we're growing at 1.6%, that's not going to cut it. People are definitely concerned. And so I'm kind of glad, that maybe people are waking up. The polls that I've seen, which the media can't stand, is that they're like, we don't understand why why people have such a downbeat opinion about Biden and the economy when the economy is doing so well.
Well, because you're paying $3.60, 70 cents, 80 cents at the pump for regular gas. If you have one of those luxury cars, thank God my car has a Chevrolet engine, the Cadillac, so you don't need to put premium gas in it. But BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, Infiniti, all those cars take premium gas. That's over $4 for premium gas.
Well, Biden's lie. He told it again about how he inherited inflation. He didn't inherit it. He inherited
he inherited good economy is what he inherited.
Yeah. Well, but he tells that lie again and again. He told that this week.
Well, I mean, Obama kind of did the same thing, right? When he came in, he blamed how things were going in the economy on Bush, right, and everything like that. It's like, well, this is and so it's like, at what point in time do you not take ownership of the economy? But 2 years or plus, into his administration, he was still blaming the previous administration for the economic instability, the employment that had been ticking up, the labor participation rate that wasn't very good. It's kind of like, it's not me, it was his fault. And stuff like that.
And one thing, Don, I don't know if you've noticed this. Every time we have a Republican president, we're always in the worst economy since the Great Depression.
Yeah,
Bill Clinton said that about George H.W. Bush. Barack Hussein Obama said that about George W. Bush's economy. And then you got Joe Biden. I mean, it's like, are you on crack, Joe? It doesn't even pass the smell test. The economy was not bad. we were in a pandemic, and we had developed, and Donald Trump and his NIH came up with a cure, a vaccine in record time. In record time, now the efficacy of the vaccines, we can go here or there on that, but the vaccine was developed in less than 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
We were out of the pandemic by 2020, late 2020, 2021, where it was pretty much a done deal in 2021.
Absolutely. And even still, I mean, I would assume more people died from the virus under Biden, even though he had a vaccine, than under Trump. I may be wrong.
I mean, more people died under the governor of New York when he put all the old people in nursing homes. They all died. It's kind of like when the French went on vacation. This is back in the 90s.
I remember
there was
that.
a heat wave in Paris, and all the rich French people went off to the country and left the old people to die in the city.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, COVID's becoming somewhat of a distant memory, even though it hasn't been that long, because life has kind of really returned to normal in most cases.
Yeah,
and you don't really think about it. I mean, sometimes places require you to get a COVID test to go see the doctor or whatnot, and things like that. But by and large, except for a lot of the Asian people who shop at the Costco in Gaithersburg who continue to wear masks all the time, they for the most part, you don't even think about it. If you get the flu, you might get tested for COVID as well to see which one.
Yeah, they do that. It happened to Bats. He was telling me he got the flu, and it's funny because he works remote and he's on the call. I'm like, James, take the day off. You do know you have unlimited sick days. Take it all. Take the day off. Get better.
I think the last time my wife went to the doctor when she wasn't feeling great was that they came out to the parking lot and tested her for COVID, and then they took her into the office after she tested negative. And it's like, so they're still things are taking precautions because they're still worried about it, but now we seem to be at least back much more to normal. And I think people's memories for a lot of things get to be very short. They're like, they don't even think COVID is as much of a thing anymore. You want to kind of move forward and think about the past when you can.
Yeah. But
and we do have a short attention span. We forgot about 9/11 5 years after it happened. If you think about it, 5 years after 9/11, nobody really,
Well, I mean, we've definitely let down our guard, as a result of that. I mean, we still get the big anniversary in New York every year with the reading of the names and stuff as a reminder, and we won't, overall, we won't forget about it. But
I think
from other perspectives, we have forgotten about it. I mean, there are people that are growing up now that where it's not going to resonate with them at all. Yeah. All the security measures that were put in place at airports and things like that post 9/11, for a lot of people, that's all they've known.
And I really think that where that comes in, this is my thoughts. I think even though you may not have a boarding pass, and let's say you're accompanying an elderly person, if you're willing to go through that TSA, line, they should let you go to the gate, frankly, opposed to, saying goodbyes at the security checkpoint, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those tricky things because I mean the old days where people could more freely flow, that you could greet your family when they came off the plane right away and stuff like that. Those days are long gone, and stuff like that. The Salt Lake Airport, because it is the hub for church missionaries for the LDS Church. They when they built the new airport, they built a waiting area outside the baggage claim area, which is specifically for families and people to wait, because that also helps put them in kind of one place. Because the old airport, things can get pretty congested if a lot of the young missionaries are showing up at the same time, and everything, that try to bring more order to the whole process. but it's yeah, you know, it's I don't know. In some ways, I miss it. I mean, it'd be great to have. You could take family to the gate, but
Hmm.
it's not a possibility, and so therefore you live with the rules that we've got. And for
Yeah, I
our
tell you, as a kid, being able to go to the gate and watching those planes take off, it is a once in a lifetime experience. You know, my dad was his firm was doing the BWI, well, Friendship Airport renovations, and we used to go there. You know, and I used to love the fact you go there, you watch those planes just zoom off, and they had this great big model in the main concourse, which was really awesome, which I thought was really cool because they had little airplanes that look like, and they had little cars that looked like a matchbox. I thought it was like the coolest thing.
Well, we did.
I remember,
Yeah, we did
I
the
remember,
same. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead, sir.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We did the same thing by Reagan National there in
Yeah.
Alexandria. We there's a park right sort of outside.
Yeah.
We would go there and we'd watch as a kid. We'd watch the planes take off.
I think you can still do that, right? Or no?
Yeah, yeah. So it's right there by the Potomac River.
Yeah, but it's nothing like being on the inside and watch inside at the gate, right at the
Yeah,
gate.
we're pretty
Watching
close. You can see them go right over you.
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
really
they say that at LAX, like the best place to do is to watch planes take off and land is at the In-N-Out Burger that's right off the airport. Apparently, it's a mecca. I mean, you know, In-N-Out Burger itself is kind of an iconic restaurant. You know, for a lot of people, it's just, you know, people know it very well. But to think that it also has the location where it's a great place to watch the planes take off,
That's
that's
right.
something else. Yep, that's what it is. Gravelly Point.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, that's it.
and
Yeah, we always used to go there. I remember as a kid. We'd watch them.
like back in the days, Brad Keenan and I used to go to lunch over at Reagan Airport just to watch the planes take off.
Oh, okay.
Because Brad was a big aviation guy.
Yeah.
And do you remember that guy from Iowa that was working for Brad? He was like Brad's assistant. He was from Iowa.
Do you know a name?
Riley? Tim Riley.
Okay, I'm not sure.
He was a big NASCAR guy. He had a bunch of he had a bunch of NASCAR stuff in his office.
All right.
But
I should tell Susan that I paid $3.51 for a gallon of gas in Rockville at the marathon. So
Okay.
by the way, speaking of gas stations, out there, the Wawas, okay, it's so tiny compared to the other Wawas. It's like a smaller Wawas. I'd rather go to the Royal Farms, up by you, to get gas there.
yeah, we have the sheets up there by the Costco in Gaithersburg, and it's not really any cheaper than the other stations around it, or if it is, it's just barely by just a few cents. So, when they first came in, they had a fairly, they had some very aggressive pricing, and it started going kind of matching the market a little bit. But they usually had at least a 10-cent advantage, but that has largely eroded as prices have increased. Same thing happens to Costco and Frederick. When the prices rise overall, they're not as competitive. When prices are falling, they can beat the pants off of most of the other gas stations around. It's just kind of interesting to see how the dynamic kind of works.
Well, I tell you, on Route 1, the Wawa's, which is real close to the Costco's down there, that has a gas station. Many times, Wawa's and Costco's is the exact same price, and you don't have to wait in a long line at the Wawa's. It's like my big thing is like, when I get to a gas, I want to be in and I don't want to be waiting in line to pump my gas. There was years ago. There was some gas station.
Never fill your car up at the Beltsville Costco.
I've never. I've thought
that line is ridiculous. That one and the one that's like, I don't know if it's technically Columbia, but it's over in that neck of the woods.
Yeah,
the lines are ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't see the advantage of that, frankly. It's such. I'd rather. There was talk about having an automated gas station where you pull in, and a robot would take the nozzle, fill your gas, and you don't even have to get out of your car. But I guess that didn't work too well. But also brings me to, inflation is still up there. I know Joe Biden wants us to believe that there is no inflation, but we have inflation.
That's right. It's nearly double what the Fed's suggested 2% is. So it's like 3.7%.
Yeah. John Stas did a thing. He took $100 bill and see how far it went at a grocery store. It didn't go that far at all.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I agree. I don't know that it would go that far.
$100 used to be a lot of money in 2020.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when $100 would fill up a cart almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some meme going around about a grocery cart like being like the most expensive car or something, or that you can have.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Stagflation is back. We're back in the 1970s.
That's right. You got declining growth and you got higher inflation.
And we got these hippies. We got these hippies on college campuses like the 70s, trying to shut things down.
Yeah, that's right.
But these guys are even more dangerous than the hippies of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, more militant.
Yeah, and these guys, this is how Nazi Germany got started.
Yeah.
We should all be very, very disturbed by what's happening on college campuses. GW, Columbia, all these Ivy Leagues, USC. Luckily, I don't think there's any of that stuff happening at the University of Maryland yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably part of the reason is because I think they might be close to finals. Apparently, Maryland Day is tomorrow at College Park, by the way. Go on out there. That's when they open up the entire school for everyone. It's a lot of fun. Alumni Association get you to renew their membership.
As you're saying, though, I mean, it has become a very dangerous situation. Columbia has let the whole thing get out of hand. The president, she took a lot of flack from those protesters because they thought she was her threat was going to call in the National Guard, as you had alluded to earlier in the program, Dwight. But she said no, but she did call the New York police to come in there and do things. And so what these universities are trying to do now is say the only people allowed on campus is those that have got a campus ID, because just like a lot of other things we know with protesters, particularly with the left, is that it's not a homegrown thing all the time, right? You do have students from the campus, but then other people come in that are just activists, and some of these people are actually the Soros Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation actually have grants out there for people to go work. It's 8 hours a week, but they get paid a stipend to go and basically rile things up, right? So there's these outside forces that are doing this, and yet, but the media's not talking about that part of it.
No,
there's all this talk about free speech, but it's like, Columbia University, they're private, right? They can do, they can put everyone.
They get federal money. They do get federal grant money for research and all sorts of stuff like that.
But that's fine. But they can have rules about, who can demonstrate and what the rules are for that. And I think it was Harvard that said, you're free to assemble, but you can't have tents and tables. You can't set up a city, right? You can't have this operation like this. I mean, that's not what this is all about. And I don't know. I'm hoping that Americans kind of, wake up, in terms of watching this kind of stuff and realize just how militant these people are. But Biden can't seem to make up his mind as to what needs to be done with this. I'm not there yet on saying he should he necessarily needs to intervene and call in the National Guard, because I think that ups the ante, and I'm
I
not sure
don't know, Don.
where we go from
Tin
there.
soldiers and
But if you at least call in the New York City police, then they ought to do things. I think Greg Abbott has been, he's decided to try to quell things down in Texas, and maybe his way is better way, because we're seeing it there. I don't know.
But there is something about sending in the tin soldiers and Nixon coming, because we know Biden nor the tin soldiers are.
I mean, there's some similarities, but they're different times. I mean, that whole Vietnam War situation, the Kent State, things, a lot of things got out of hand. We haven't seen, no one should be firing any weapons there, but when the Jewish students on these campuses, kind of fear for their lives, they may get assaulted and whatever, and that the schools are now having to go to virtual learning here for the last few weeks, and who knows? I mean, who knows what happened? The graduation question is going to be out there, right? As you mentioned, Dwight, USC. I mean, they started with the valedictorian, right? They canceled her because they were worried about what she might say for her safety, and then they took out all the other speakers. We weren't going to have any other main stage speakers, and then they canceled. So they have just kind of ratcheted this thing up, and there are like 65,000 people apparently that show up at USC for this. I mean, I feel sorry for the students, because when you think about it, it's like it's 2024. The students who entered college 4 years ago, they were still in the pandemic mode, right? And so here's a chance to have a graduation. They got robbed of their high school graduation. They're going to get robbed of their college graduation now. But this time it's not because of some virus or whatever. Now it's because of these stupid pro-Hamas people that no one will really stand up to.
Yeah, a virus of a different sort.
Yeah, it is a virus of a different sort.
And and these people are so full of hate. Wow, the fireworks just went off.
I know. I can't control it.
Is it 4th of July where you are?
It is a StreamYard Mac thing.
I don't know. It's like that is one thing I've noticed over the years. There is so much hate out there from the left. There is absolutely. It started with Bush Cheney. They were keying cars with Bush Cheney bumper stickers, like mine got keyed because I had a Bush Cheney sticker on my car.
Yeah. Well, the most intolerant place in the country would be a college campus. Most intolerant place you'll find.
Yeah, it is. And you talk about the hatred, Dwight. I mean, I remember when Obama came into office, he talked about kind of like reaching across the aisle. He was going to be kind of the guy who was going to bring everybody together after all this, divisiveness of the previous 8 years and stuff like that. But what happened in the end was that things have become more polarized, right? More divisive, every time with every succeeding president, in essence. And so we definitely there's this huge divide now in terms of people are now, it's like, they're going to support the MAGA Republicans, or they're going to be the Biden people. There's not a lot of wiggle room in the middle. You're going to watch Fox News, or you're going to watch MSNBC. Not a lot of people watch, CNN, because CNN doesn't really know what they're doing anyway. Though they tend to lean more liberal than anything else. So you're seeing just this bifurcation where there's these camps, and these two camps are never going to meet.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy. I was like, just see that how when you look at the Trump hush money trial, right? There's two different worlds on there. If you listen to Rachel Maddow, it's kind of an angry, bitter Donald Trump. And then if you watch the Fox News report, it's like, he's fine. He's just sitting there kind of soaking it all in and just kind of following along. So, we're getting, because you can't, there's no cameras in the courtroom, so you got to rely upon these people that have attended the thing, and so that has become very biased in and of itself. They're reporting, which helps feed the group that they're reporting to. So is there hatred out there? There's plenty of hatred out there now.
And remember, tin soldiers and Trump is coming. And they better clean this mess up, so to speak. Which they won't. They won't.
Well, yeah, it also is fueling some more of those calls for the whole, divest from Israel type of a thing, right? The universities should make sure their their endowments hold nothing. No companies that deal with Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw how the protests at Google blew up. I think it started with 28 employees that got fired. Now it's up to 50 that have been fired for protesting at Google. For a cloud contract they had with an Israeli company, and it's like, well, for Google, it's like you are interfering with our business. You had you're an employee. You cannot just create a blockade so that we can't actually get our work done and provide.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's kind of funny. It's like we've got over like one of my government contracts is NOAA, right? Can you imagine if a bunch of employees decided that we're mad because you guys are promoting fisheries, and we think fish are people too, and we shouldn't be eating fish, so we're just going to keep you from doing your job. You don't want to have to be arrested and fired on the spot, and that's one thing people don't understand. When you don't have a God-given right to work for your employer, it's a privilege. And you can be gone quick as you were brought in, frankly.
It reminds me of those kids. Remember those kids who worked on the Hill that sent a letter denouncing their boss's policies towards Israel? It was anonymous, but and I think didn't the White House have a similar thing with the interns there?
Yeah, they did.
It's the same thing.
But see, it goes back to the Mr. X letter. Everybody knew who wrote that Mr. X letter. That was in the Washington Post.
Okay.
Nothing's anonymous in this town. You know which interns did that. They're the ones that you didn't see back. Well, I don't know if they were fired or not, but yeah.
Well, they probably should get fired, actually, but
they should.
I mean, look,
this stuff.
And I'm glad that Google took a stand on that, right? I mean, it had to happen. I mean, if they let that go and they don't do anything, then it's going to just tell others that they can go ahead and try to do that at any other company, tech company or whatever, do the same thing and disrupt business, and that doesn't serve anybody's purpose at all to do this. The left has had. They get very sympathetic treatment by the media, as we all know. So it does require these companies to stand up. They've gone all in. They went all in for the whole DEI movement and things like that. And that's backfired on them to a large degree. This administration's all DEI. I mean, virtually every cabinet member in the Biden administration is a DEI type of hire, which then makes it really hard for them to fire anybody because of the whole DEI thing, right? You can't get rid of Karine Jean-Pierre because she's probably the epitome of a DEI hire for Biden.
You can't get rid of Kamala Harris, you can't get rid of her because she's a DEI VP.
And you got one on the Supreme Court you can't get rid of.
Well, they're trying to get rid of her though.
Sotomayor.
They're trying to get rid of Sonia Sotomayor, the wise Latina.
That's the
why?
That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is really odd, isn't it, to do that?
What do they think?
I don't know why her.
Yeah. Well,
and health-wise, who knows? I mean, it's just it's kind of ghoulish, and it's a job for life if they don't do anything wrong. And as far as I know, from the left standpoint, she hasn't done anything wrong. I mean, it's just weird.
Well, I mean, it is. If I were Sonia Sotomayor, I would never resign. I would die there in that chair.
Well, remember they also tried to put pressure on Breyer, and Breyer finally did resign, but they're putting pressure on Breyer to resign.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because heaven forbid if President Trump gets another Supreme Court justice, that'd be a super majority. It'll take them generations to overcome that one.
Well, knock on wood, I'm hoping he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things too, is that with all this politics and all these other things going on here with Trump's trials, the Supreme Court now taking oral arguments on Trump's immunity, is that if Trump gets reelected, what are the possibilities that he strengthens the court? I mean, one of the things that if he gets elected again, is that there probably ought to be some serious discussion about replacing Thomas at some point. Just because Clarence Thomas is getting up there in years, and you want to make sure that you've got enough, especially if they gain control of the Senate, then they've got they have a great chance of kind of updating and remaking the court a little bit once again for decades. And I think Clarence Thomas might look at that and say, I'm getting up there. Resigning is not something that hasn't been done before. It's become much more common, and we do. Everything seems to be aligned, and I could do this. I could bow out gracefully and get replaced by somebody who could sit on the court for 25 or 30 years. The liberal justices, as far as I know, I mean, they're in relatively good health, and all that. It's probably just strengthening anything that's on our side, but you never know. I mean, people's health can turn on a dime and things can happen. So,
well, yeah,
and, what they're saying is Sonia Sotomayor is a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah,
but honestly,
people live with diabetes for years.
And here's the also for they can actually do pancreas transplants for people with type 1 diabetes. I think they could do that with people with type 2 too. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, nor have I ever played one on TV.
I think they're
just the host of a doctor show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Thomas has been there for a while. I remember when he was nominated by HW.
As much as I detest Arlen Specter, Arlen Specter did do his job and because remember Joe Biden tried to do tried to lynch Thomas.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it's kind of it's kind of like how a lot of conservatives, I think, felt about Mitch McConnell. There's a lot of people who just they didn't like Mitch McConnell. They would rail against him when he did things right. They were fine. When he did things they didn't agree with, they railed on him. But he kept Merrick Garland off the Supreme Court and helped set this up. That conservatives should always be thankful for.
I agree. That's part of his legacy, which is great. Kept Merrick Garland off the Supreme Court. That alone is,
especially since we've seen what Garland has done at the DOJ.
He's just a bitter old man. By the way, maybe that's why they want Sonia Sotomayor to step aside so they can appoint.
Well, the liberals are really upset. It seems by the oral arguments so far that on the immunity side for Trump.
Yeah, I saw that.
They don't like how this has been going.
Because
go ahead.
Well, because remember, they already have under the Supreme Court. There's a Supreme Court ruling where the president has civil protections from civil suits. So, I mean, the question is, well, would that also, and I think it would be, include criminal or some criminal accusations as well? And the other thing they're concerned about is apparently, no matter what, it looks like the Supreme Court will extend this because they may give such a ruling to send it back to the court, a lower court, to make another ruling. So this may push it past the election.
In all likelihood, I think that is what will happen. But the court is, in general, except for say Kentucky, except for some of these liberal justices, they're kind of like they're looking at the future. It's like if we narrow the immunity side of this, what does this do for future presidents, right? Whereas the liberal justices are kind of like, well, but that would, if we don't, if you don't agree with the liberals on this, future presidents could just kind of run rampant. It's like, we really haven't seen that in the past. This, I don't think that's the problem. It may not all go 100% Trump's way, but I think the Supreme Court knows that they have got, they need to protect the office of the president from being from this. And so, and once again, it also this and the whole hush money case is nothing. It's all political, right? These are all.
And I mean, we could do. Here's the thing. I'm not really big on eye for an eye, but I'm going to make an exception. I hope when President Trump is back in the West, we go after Hillary Clinton, Filegate, Whitewater. We open every last can of worms they've got. I mean, hell, let's go out and reopen Abscam and go after the Keating Five as well, the surviving members of the Keating Five that are still with us. Let's go after them too.
I think they're all probably gone, right? DeConcini, McCain.
DeConcini's still alive, I think, though. DeConcini is still alive.
Oh, Dizzy, maybe, Biz.
I think he is. I know John Glenn is gone.
Yep, John Glenn was part of that.
Yeah.
Was there a New England? Who was the other? Was there a New England senator involved in that Keating Five? I wondered.
I don't know. Alan Cranston was mixed up in that, but
okay, by California. Okay.
California, Mass. It looks about the same.
But you're kind of on the right track there, Dwight, because I mean, this is if they limit the immunity of Donald Trump when he served as president for all these things, then if what is to stop the Republicans, if they gain control of they maintain control of the House, and they gain control of the Senate, from going after Joe Biden post presidency for stuff, right? And so I think the liberals have got to watch out what you wish for, because I think Joe Biden, can be can be liable for some potential things there, because it's not really clear to me that that he's to me he's not innocent of things. There's a lot of funny stuff that's going on in the Biden family, and that we have not fully found out. And the Democrats have been able to keep a lid on, but Republicans gain control, and if he's not granted, if Biden doesn't have immunity, then that's a problematic thing for him, and his family as well. So, you just have to watch out what you wish for, because it could come back to bite you.
Yeah, that's true.
Imagine if we could do an independent prosecutor. They said the independent prosecutor rule to go after Joe Biden. We could have done that for a while.
Well, I hope the court doesn't get intimidated by the outrage from the media if they do rule correctly on this one, at least.
I think the court has been pretty good about isolating themselves from this. They've gotten used to the pressure from the media, the pressure from the liberals, the left wing, out there about these things, and I think they really have tried to focus in on the issue at hand, on the constitutionality of the issues that they get. Even as conservatives, we don't necessarily always agree with all the decisions that they've issued over the last few years, but that is going to be as part of the whole give and take. Not just because we've got a conservative court, or at least on paper it looks a conservative majority, does not mean that we're going to get that away every single time. How many times have Republican senators, swung the other way and prevented things from happening in the Senate just when we needed them to do?
Yeah, and just think, even when the court rules right, like in the case of student loans, well, Biden does it anyway. So
Biden and his questionable legality about his student loan forgiveness. He's been chipping away at the edges, right?
And by the way,
but the ironic thing about that, one last thing there, the ironic thing about that is he can't secure the border because he's not sure he won't be sued at some point down the road legally. But in terms of student loan forgiveness, well, he can do that, even though the Supreme Court already ruled against him on that in principle. So.
And I mean, don't be fooled. This is just the tip of the iceberg. what's going to happen next after, if he gets student loans, the next thing they're going to have to is credit card debt. Because what are they going to say? Only the poorest of the poor are have credit card debt. I'm sorry. I know a few doctors that live paycheck to paycheck, and they're making like several six figures. They want to forgive. That's going to be next. Credit card debt, maybe home mortgages. All these people that had predatory lending rates, so let's just forgive their mortgage rate. Their mortgage loan. And it's that slippery slope, and at the end of the day, you chose to get a bachelor's degree in underwater basket weaving, and you can't, there's no ROI on that. By the way, anybody want to go to school? Engineering has the best ROI. It's about 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, for the Biden administration, for liberals, left wingers, personal responsibility has no meaning at all, right? Right. That's why. So let's forgive the student loans. Maybe you're right, Dwight. Maybe credit card debt of some of that will be discharged or whatever, because they always frame it as like this isn't going to cost anything. Well, which is blatantly it's a blatant lie, because we all know that all of us here, on the program and then watching, we're all paying for it. All of that adds to the debt, right? So, we all pay for this.
Plus, John, it may be inflationary as well, so it's another way you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, well, yeah. John, I think is it interest on the debt has soared, as interest rates have risen.
It's now surpassing defense. They're spending more on interest than defense.
It's crazy. Yeah. We had all those years of low interest, which was helping us, kind of tamp that down. But as interest rates have climbed and just the prolific spending, by Biden, not to say that the Republicans under Trump were not equally as bad on this, but they have pushed, by pushing up the national debt and with high interest rate, this is just becoming crushing.
It is.
And it comes down to this. It just comes down to the fact that it's like, you want to be an ant or do you want to be a grasshopper? And unfortunately, there's too many grasshoppers in Washington. Too many, and they don't want. They want to just have fun today and not think about tomorrow. Honest to God, we should be trimming the federal budget, with a hatchet. There is so much bloat in the federal government. It's not even funny.
Plus, just think about the national debt. Not just put aside the $34 trillion in the national debt, but the budget deficit is pushing something like 6% of GDP. That's historic. That would be at the level of the Depression, the mortgage meltdown, and COVID. So why are we spending all this money if the economy is generally pretty good and we're not in a pandemic, we're not in a war? So why are we spending all this money?
And you have the last word, Dave.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, which is also something that Biden is no longer talking about, right? There was a point in time when he was talking about how much they've reduced the deficit.
The deficit, yeah.
But they don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you just watch how they adjust when things, when they can put the numbers together and make it look like they're doing something right, or making some progress. They talk about it, and even though they were basically lying when talking about reducing the deficit, because it wasn't a fair comparison. There were so many different factors that went into that, because of COVID and things like that. That's what created that. But now that they have more control over all these things, it's like, hey, look, this, you own this. But now you don't want to talk about this. So between the deficit and the national debt, it's out of control, and you're not doing anything about it. And now Republicans, at least there are some Republicans in Congress who have been trying. They've been, as authorization bills come up, they're like, we want spending cut. We at least try to slow it down. Because part of that problem all the time is that when they set a new baseline, cutting from a higher baseline, doesn't really do a whole lot. You need to go back and really cut, and not just say, here's your baseline and cut. Go back and take a real hatchet to it and make some significant cuts. As Dwight said, bloat, there's plenty of it. You know, I think I remember when, you know, Bob Ehrlich took over in Maryland. You know, I think one of the things he did, which I thought was good, was that, you know, he just decided that, you know, we've got positions that are not filled, and we're just not going to fill them. They're probably not necessary, but why do we have to spend the money filling them? You know, and find ways to be a little bit more efficient and effective.
Yeah.
This goes across all levels of government. The federal government.
And let me under Paris Glendening, KKT staffed up the lieutenant governor's office to 16 people. You know how many people worked for the lieutenant governor prior to KKT? They had 2 people and 1 part-time person during the session. 3 people. And she took that up to 15. She added 12 more positions to her office of lieutenant governor.
And I think there was a similar comparison when, you know, with Obama administration versus Trump, that, you know, Trump didn't have anywhere near as much staffing, you know, in these offices as Obama had. You know, once again, Trump was very different. They, you know, I think being a businessman, just like we can operate on a leaner basis, at least a lot of these personnel areas. We don't need to have as many people doing things. It is hard to cut, you know, government jobs because no one has the courage to do it. That's the thing. They don't want to be the guy that does that. But, you know, I've been waiting since Reagan to see departments cut. Right?
Yeah.
Instead, we get more. We have more.
Yeah.
Government grows. It always grows.
Yep.
That used to drive my father crazy. It just, you know, being at the Fed. I mean, just, you know, he could see that prime example because they had this great old historic building on Constitution Avenue, but they grew so they kept adding so many people. They had to build a 13-story building behind it, you know, to house more staffing. And it's like, why?
I mean, look at the IRS. Look at the IRS.
The world really doesn't need that many more economists. Okay.
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't want to offend too many economists, but you don't need that many economists.
Art Laffer. There's the only economists we really need right now, frankly.
Yeah, look, my father was an economist, right, for the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's just, but I mean, he just thought it was ridiculous to see, you know, the growth of government.
Well, we can't even cut NPR, so we're not going to cut. That was my father used to say that about that. He said, if you can't even cut NPR,
by the way,
what are you going to cut?
I will say something nice about Panhandle Broadcasting. They actually had a decent documentary on Patrick Moynihan this past week.
I didn't see that one.
And it was not, you think that,
you know how they could win Dwight over? There's a way that the NPR executives could win Dwight over. I'm thinking a special on Spiro T. Agnew.
They gotta do it right. They've actually done one, but it was really bad. I want to say years ago in Spiro Agnew.
I did that.
But they did it right, and they talk about all the great things he did, like the second span of the Bay Bridge, all the wonderful things in Maryland. He was our first reform era governor. He reformed the government. And he basically did a lot of great things, you know.
You should pitch it. I think you should pitch that.
He unfortunately got his hand caught in that proverbial cookie jar, you know. But we are in extra innings.
I know. The funny thing about all of these things too is like all this on immunity thing. What are the reference points on a lot of the immunity things? Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
So now we're going back 50 years in time.
Yeah. And here's the thing, President Nixon, you know, we really could use him right now because he knows how to deal with the rioters at Columbia and all these other universities. Tell me, USC would have a graduation if President Nixon were in the White House right now.
Yeah.
But we're at final thoughts, Don. We're in extra innings also.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Let's start with you, Dave.
Well, I would say with the protest to follow up, it's like the inmates are running the asylum, and I think it's been that way for many years. Nothing really else to update. I'm hoping I'll have more information on the book next week. I thought it would be this week, but still being worked on. And then other than that, hanging in there, and I hope to get my Substack up and running this weekend. I'll get up another post. Column.
So when did your book come out?
Well, I don't know yet. I'll find out. Hopefully next week I'll get more information on when I can get the second book out.
Okay,
It's
great.
still being looked at and suggestions being made. So I'm still part of that process now. I was hoping it would be done this week, but it's not. So it's taken the guy a little bit longer to look at. So hopefully next week we'll have more on that. So I can give you a date. And
Awesome. And we'll have,
that's
to,
about it.
we'll have to come on out to talk about your book again. Like
I'd love to come. I'd love to come back to Maryland. And for Susan, hopefully I wrote a good one.
Yeah. And and be sure and come on out May 9th. Our special club event with Governor Ehrlich.
Oh, yeah.
Susan will definitely be there. Correct, Susan? I hope you will. We'll see you at Naheed's. Let's see. Final thoughts, Don or Vine?
Yeah, just a few things. I mean, Dave, you're right on about the whole inmates running the asylum thing. There is something about I think where some people are shocked at what's going on college campuses, but yet this kind of activism has been there, and it hopefully maybe like I said before early in the program, hopefully some people wake up to this, because I think this particular issue on Israel and the pro-Hamas thing, I think it really does resonate with a lot of people. And when you see it happening in New York, it's rather stark to see how the Jewish students are being treated, in this regard, and just this whole blatant cover up of what Hamas did in Israel and who started this whole thing to begin with. But I thought it's interesting that John Fetterman, who I am liking a little bit more, every day, is now pushing for Mitt Romney to take over as president of Harvard. I mean, look, he was the governor of Massachusetts. Why not go up, go and take over? That would not be a hard sell for me. You'd get somebody. I think I don't know that Mitt would want to do that, but I think that would actually be a good thing for him to do. It's less of an ideologue in a lot of ways for this, and instead of having these left-wing academics running, get someone like that. I mean, I think that's a good idea. So I don't know what the chances are of that happening, but I thought that's interesting coming from John Fetterman of all people. But I have a feeling that Fetterman probably really grew to like Romney in the Senate. I mean, because especially since Romney was not always, voting 100% of the time with the Republicans and whatnot. But Fetterman's positions on things, and he's been very strong on the whole Israel thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a big deal. Seeing Robert Kraft of the Patriots saying, as a Columbia graduate, saying, no more money, to you guys. That's the other thing that these Ivy League schools, now we're going through another round of, famous alumni from schools saying, no, that's it. Even if they're liberal, they're like, no, we're not going to give any more money, because this is not the school I knew. This is not the kind of effort I want to support.
And Don, I think you saw probably today about all the independent journalists complaining about Joe Biden. These are liberal freelance journalists who are not getting interviews with Joe Biden. They're never being called on at press conferences. And I mean, these people are like his fellow travelers that are getting, he's really cheesing off all of his people that should be with him, I think.
And I hear he's going to do an interview with Howard Stern.
Really? Howard Stern?
So he's not going to do an interview. He's never done one not to interrupt your time, but he hasn't done one sit-down interview with the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, or the Washington Post. Only president in modern history not to avoid this. But he's going to do one with Howard Stern, what I'm hearing.
And those are all.
And he skipped the Super Bowl interview, right?
That's right. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Is he going to go to the correspondence dinner this weekend? That's this weekend, right? The correspondence dinner.
I think he is. I would assume he'll be there, because they're not going to ask him any questions, and someone can write up the script for him to say, and then he can leave.
Yeah, right? So he reads it off the teleprompter. He reads it off the teleprompter. He will go, quote,
pause.
Yeah.
That's like a Les Nessman thing.
And that cannibal story, where now Papua New Guinea is taking the front to that. And,
Yeah.
it's like, exactly what did those cannibals do? Did they go into the ocean when the plane crashed and dragged them out and then ate
That's
them?
right. Yeah. It's reminiscent maybe of Jimmy Carter's Killer Rabbit story. Remember that one?
Yeah, the killer rabbit. That was hilarious. Yeah. So
in PG County, we've got a guy that dresses up in a bunny suit around Halloween and he jumps out and scares cars.
Well,
Funny man.
It's just continually, amazes me. And then I guess just a couple of things on, kind of the green energy side. Apparently, Hertz decided that after dumping 20,000 cars this past year, Tesla's in their fleet, they're dumping another 10,000 in their fleet. So they're basically getting out of the EV side of it. It became just too costly. People don't realize how expensive it is to repair these things. I was having lunch with a financial guy the other day, and he had ordered a Rivian truck, but he never got it. So after 2 years, he canceled the order. But he had a neighbor who had one, and the guy told him, he says, if this bumper gets damaged, it's $15,000 for the bumper alone.
Oh, jeez.
What is it, a platinum bumper? I mean,
well, it's got all these sensors and everything else like that in there. So it's, we're driving computers, right? So as a result of that, you have all these things that are going on with that regard. And then there's a story about wind farms in New York. So New York, had tried to go all in on having these offshore wind farms, and they contracted with these companies at a rate that turns out to be about 5 times what it would cost to do it via natural gas, right? But part of the problem is that because these the equipment, is not very reliable, the cost of actually making these things have just risen tremendously. Ratepayers look like, for whatever they will build, if they can get it done, well, the ratepayers are going to wind up with, if you want to be green, thanks to the state of New York, you're going to have to, you can pay 5 times more than you were before for your electricity generation. And so once again, just the folly of all of this, these efforts to think that they can replace enough electricity and, energy on the grid, by taking the fossil fuels out and replacing them with wind or solar, it doesn't work long term. So those are my final thoughts.
Okay. My final thoughts on it. I am so angry at television and Hollywood and all those, my shows, they're delaying. One of my favorite shows I like to watch is Superman and Lois on the CW, which is now owned by some crackpot. But he decided we're not going to release Superman and Lois because there's a Superman movie being rebooted this summer. So now, Superman and Lois fans, you got to wait till October of 2024 to get the rest of the series. I'm also mad about the fact that these other televisions, like I remember in the old days, they do 25, 27, 28 episodes. I mean, I Love Lucy did 35 episodes in a season. Hazel did 38. And now they do like 16 episodes and that's it. And they're off. Seems like if you get one new episode, they're off for 2 weeks and they get another new episode. It's like, what is going on with these people? I was better off when I didn't tried to watch any television, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're someone who likes to watch, some of these shows, whether or not it's Law and Order or the Chicago Fire show, those kind of things like that, the NCIS shows, anything that's on television, we used to be able to count on starting in September, and they would launch, and they would run that, and they would run that through, and then usually in when it get to Thanksgiving, you get the repeats around there through December, and they'd start back up in January thereabouts, because the sweeps months are May, November. I guess it's February, May, November. When the real months where things count, and so that's when you don't want to run repeats in the sweeps months and stuff like that. But now it's like if you think of okay, where's my episode this week? And when sometimes it's 2 weeks between episodes, right?
I know. It's like I liked Law and Order: Organized Crime. It's actually probably the best of the Law and Order franchise right now.
Yeah, it's a good gritty show.
Yeah, followed by SVU and the original Mothership Law and Order show.
Mm-hmm.
But although with what's his name gone, I don't know if the show's as with Jack McCoy no longer being the big DA in Manhattan. I don't know if it's still gonna. If the new guy seems better, but I don't know. There's no Jack McCoy.
The jury is out.
Yeah, it is. But that also, everyone, May 6th is the Ellen Sabre dinner in lovely Towson, Maryland, one of the tribes that make up Baltimore County. Come on out. Tickets are we still have a lot of good seats left. Go to mdgop.org to buy the tickets. And if you are a Montgomery County Republican Club member, we have our special event just for our members only. It's a free event with Governor Bob Ehrlich and Kent Ehrlich on May 9th. Go to MontgomeryCountyRepublicanClub.com to get details and check out our brand new website. We're still, it's kind of like when you move into a house, you still got to do a few things, but it's like 95% fully operational, as you know. And then we will have a pop-up of Emperor Palpatine saying the website is fully operational. So that's about it for my final thoughts, everyone. I think I need to still catch up on my sleep, so I'm going to go to bed. I am so tired right now.
Poor Dwight. Oh,
it's like, when
you're not getting any younger. That's the problem.
Well, I used to be able to get by on 4 hours of sleep.
I never could I needed more than that myself. But.
If you only get, like, last night, I think I got 5 hours of sleep, right? And you feel it around 2-3 o'clock. You feel that you can physically feel your eyes are getting tired. You're dozing off, Yeah. So, anyways, everyone, good night. See everyone next week. Take care. Bye.